The action or the event of being pressured into doing something that is not quite congruent with our character by other people that we may care about is something that we call peer pressure. It comes in many different stages in life. Early on, it was being pressured into doing a thing that was blatantly wrong by people who were blatantly wrong. I've noticed as I've gotten older that the lines blurred a little bit because the peers change. It's people that I respect, people that I may look up to, people that I may say, well, if they're doing it, it should be fine. I'd imagine it's going to take another step. It's going to change a little bit more. Maybe the pressure is going to change. And my boss will say, well, if you don't do this thing, we're going to take your job away. And so the pressure changes to being money. But Solomon gives us the three things that we need to overcome any form of peer pressure that we may face in our lives. He tells us in Proverbs 1, verse 10. Turn your Bibles there with me. Proverbs 1:10. He says, my son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. Those are the three things that we need. We need to know who we are. Solomon calls us my son, sons and daughters of the king. The second thing we need is we need to know who they are. Solomon calls them sinners. And then the third thing we need is the backbone not to acquiesce. Solomon says, consent thou not. All right, so the first thing we need is we need to know who we are. Solomon calls us sons. The definition of this phrase is builder of the family name. I really like that definition because it allows us to zoom out, doesn't it? It allows us to see that we represent something that's bigger and better than ourselves. There was a Navy SEAL who gave this motivational speech. It's called Be a Pro. And in this speech, he talked about his ability to always put the team over the individual, always put the team over himself. He said, before I made a decision, I would always ask myself, is this going to benefit the team in any way? He said, if the answer was no, I didn't do that thing. He said, I always represented the team well. If I was going to go out, I wanted people to, when I walked into a room, they look at me and they say, that's exactly how I thought a guy like that would look. When they see me perform on the flat range, that they would say, that's exactly how I thought a guy like that would perform. When they see me speak, that's exactly how I thought a guy like that would speak. Now, he represented the SEAL team of which he was a part, but you and I represent a family, and the families in this room. Solomon says we're a builder of that family's name, and the name that we all wear is Christian. And so are we doing the things that we need to do to build that family name up in righteousness and in goodness? Because Solomon says that's who we are. When people see us walk into a room, do they point at us and they say, that's exactly how I thought a Christian should look? I'll never forget when I was preaching in Arkansas that there was a Baptist church down the road, and they had a service that was immediately following ours. And so I just got finished preaching. I had my suit on, I had my tie on, and I had these little WBBS cards that had a little QR code that you could scan. And when you scanned them, they'd have all these videos about salvation and the church and things like this. And so I went into this Baptist church, the service finishes, and I would meet people, shake their hands, tell them it was nice to meet them, and I give them this little card. It's got these cool Bible studies on it. You may enjoy it. I remember meeting this one lady. It was just her and her son. And I'm sitting there in a suit. I'm in this Baptist church. Everybody's wearing skinny jeans and, polo shirts and whatnot. And she said, it's very refreshing to see a man of God dressed appropriately. Now, I'm not here saying that we need to all start wearing suits, but I'm here saying that the way that we show up is important in the way that we represent the family's name. How we show up. When people listen to us speak, do they listen to us speak and say, that's exactly how I thought a Christian was supposed to speak? I hear all these people, they say they're Christians, they say they love God and they love the Lord, but then they cuss like sailors. But you speak a little bit differently. Colossians 4, verse 6 tells us that our speech is to be seasoned with salt. Salt does a multitude of different things, right? But three of the things that it does is that it makes things better, it preserves a good thing, and it heals. And so what Paul is saying here in this passage is that the words that I give to a person who may not be in Christ, who is lost, are my words making them better? Are they bringing them closer to Christ? Are my words preserving a good person when I meet a righteous person? Am I going into their life with my speech to erode their righteousness and to make them worse? Or do I leave their life better than when I found it? When I meet a broken person, are my words seasoned with salt enough to heal them, make them better? You see, when we speak, we represent our family's name. We represent each other in everything we do, in the way we act, in the way we speak, because it's who we are. That's the first thing we need to know to overcome peer pressure. We need to know who we are. The second thing that we need to know is we need to know who they are. Now, this is going to require us to judge a little bit. Not a hypocritical judgment, not a credulous judgment or a judgment that's too soon, but a judgment of righteousness, a righteous judgment. That entails listening to their speech. James says in James 1:26, if any man seems to be religious, but he doesn't bridle his tongue, this man's religion is useless. And so when we listen to the word, Solomon's going to illustrate this in the following passages. He says, these sinners, they say, come with us, let's lay in wait for blood. Let's lurk privily for the innocent without cause. We'll swallow them up alive as those who go down into the pit. We'll do all these horrible things to these innocent people for our own gain. See, if we're judging a righteous judgment, if we're listening to their speech, it's very easy for us to be able to tell that these people are not people who are in our family. Jesus says in Matthew 7 that we are to judge a righteous judgment in the fact that we assess their fruits. He says there will be many false prophets, and they'll come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they're ravenous wolves. To these people, you have to assess their fruits. What's that mean? Maybe their reputation. Maybe the way that they treat other people. The effect that they have on other people's lives. Assessing their fruits. Now, this may seem like an obvious point. Like, obviously, I need to know that they're sinners, right? But peer pressure is not always bad. And so it's absolutely integral that we judge a righteous judgment to see who it is that's pressuring us into doing a certain thing. There have been many good men in my life who have pressured me into doing things that I didn't want to do at the time, but just because they were pressuring me and they were my peers, it's not mean that they're telling me to do a bad thing. And so it's absolutely integral that we know who it is that's pressuring us. Maybe I trust this person and they're helping me to do a good thing. But if I can judge a righteous judgment and I see these people are outside of Christ, then I know that I need to know who I am, know who I represent, and then follow the last point. Just have the backbone not to give in. The third point and the first point go hand in hand. You can't separate these two. In order for you to behave in the way that you want to behave, you have to know who you are. They say that identity is one of the biggest catalysts for behavioral change. That means if I decide that I am a person who works out every day, that it's going to be easier for me to behave in such a way. If I decide that I'm a morning person, it's going to be easier for me to wake up in the morning at the time that I decide to wake up. You see, when I decide that I am a son of God, a daughter of God, representing the family of God, it's going to be a lot easier for me to act in congruency with that. So that when I finally face the person who is trying to tempt me to do an evil thing, I can reject them in that moment because I know who I am. My dad used to say to me when I was growing up, he'd say, either be a bad kid or be a good kid, but whatever you choose, do it well. He said that because he saw in my life that I was good in some places, and in other places I'd be bad. He saw in my life that I'd be good for a little bit of time, and then for a little bit of time, being good would get too hard, and so I'd be bad until I get punished, and then I'd be good again. He said, if you're going to do something, do it. And when he said that, I was like, are you sure? I don't know. But he said, if you're going to be bad, you be bad and you do it well, and you take your punishment like a man. If you're going to be good, you do it well, and you do it all the way. Jesus says something similar. He says to the church of Laodicea, he told them that they were lukewarm. He said, I'd much rather you be hot or you be cold, but because you're this weird thing in between, I'll spew you out of my mouth. The invitation tonight is to decide who you are. Are you in the family of God? Are you a son or daughter representing this family and representing it well? Are you for Christ, or are you against him? Who are you? Let's stand.